Hey, good morning, guys. It is Wednesday morning, April 1st, April Fool's Day joke, Corona pandemic all over the world. So, unfortunately, it's not a joke. Hope you guys are doing okay. Hope you're not ready to pull your hair out with all these videos and trying to do everything on the computer when it should be your senior year and you should be, I don't know, whatever it is you should be doing. Um, feel bad for you guys, but it is what it is. This will be a great story to tell your kids someday, I guess. I don't know if that makes you feel any better right now, but I'm going to continue to plow forward. We're going to talk more about Congress today. Um, I don't know, maybe one or two of you find this kind of interesting. I do, but that's probably why I teach government. So hopefully you've watched all those videos. And in a time like this, I think it's more important that you understand how the government works and what roles the government has and what they can and can't do and what they should and shouldn't be doing. So um, it's going to be interesting over the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 months, see what the government tries to do, what the government doesn't try to do. So hope you're all healthy. Hope you're paying attention to what we're supposed to be doing. You know me, I don't want to necessarily follow all the rules. I'm a big believer in freedom, but I also don't want any of you guys to get sick, and I want to have a relationship with all you guys for a long time. So um, let's go and let's go to the slideshow, which is never an exciting thing to say. Let's go to the slideshow. Okay, so we left off. I'm going to try to make this. I always say I'm going to make it short, but you know me, I like to talk. So let's look at Congress. We're talking about congressional leadership. So here's basically what it looks like. So you have the Senate, you have the president of the Senate, who's the the president of the Senate, who's the vice president. Mike Pence is currently the vice president of the Senate. He really never does anything with the Senate. He's really only there to break a tie if there was ever a 50-50 vote. Because there's two per state, two senators per state, it can always end in a tie, no matter how many states there have been. When there was 13 states, there was 26, so you can still have a tie. So now in the House of Representatives, you can't have a tie because it's not. You could if not everybody showed up, but there's 435, so that's an odd number. President pro temp, don't really worry about this guy. It's more of a figurehead. Senate Majority Leader is really an important guy. Mitch McConnell is a Senate Majority Leader right now. Senate Minority Leader, that would be Charles Schumer from New York. Mitch McConnell's from Kentucky. And then the whips are the guys that get everybody in to make sure that they do what the party wants. Speaker of the House is Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump, unfortunately, have a very bad relationship. They're using the media to further that bad relationship. At a time like this, it would be good if they really got along, but unfortunately, that's not the case. And then the House Majority Leader and the House Minority Leader. So the House Minority Leader would be, I should know it, I'm embarrassed, I don't know it, but whichever Republican is kind of the head of the Republicans, because the Democrats have control of the House right now. And then the whips, again, the whips are the guys that make sure that you're staying within the party lines. So, and then the president cannot pass a law. He has no legislative powers. But if the president gets before the TV cameras or before the newspapers or whatever, however we read news now, and comes up with an idea, because he's the president, his party's going to follow, and probably the government's going to follow. So he can urgently stress that we pass a certain type of law, and it usually is done. So he has no legislative power. He cannot pass a law, but he can urge Congress to do that. And then if the president is a Republican and the Senate and the House are controlled by Republicans, for instance, he can pretty much get anything he wants passed, because the president is de facto the head of his party, right? He's not actually the president of the Republican Party. Donald Trump's not, but since he's the president, he's the most powerful man. He is in charge of that party. When Obama was the president, he was de facto in charge of the Democratic Party. So when they control both houses, as Donald Trump did for his first 2 years, both houses were controlled by the Republicans. He could pretty much get anything done. Now the House is controlled by the Democrats. So when he doesn't control Congress, it's kind of a do nothing president, meaning he can't really get anything done. When he does control both houses, You can pretty much get anything done. Now we're kind of in the middle. So here's the committee system. You probably watched the video on it. Hopefully you did. The committees write legislation. Okay, it's really the committees is where everything starts. Okay, there are a couple of kinds of committees. One is the standing committee. Okay, these are committees that remain intact forever. They're always in there. House Ways and Means, they control money. Senate Finance Committee, they control money. House and Senate Appropriation Committees, they control money. Select committees are not permanent, and they do not have the power to present legislation. As an example, maybe there'll be a committee to look into the coronavirus. Maybe there'll be a committee to look into how to spend money when there's a pandemic. Well, that committee is only going to meet when there's a pandemic. So that's not a standing committee is there all the time. Select committees are only there when they're needed. For instance, after 9/11, there were probably select committees to look into that. Joint committees, these are committees that involve members from the House and Senate. Okay, House and Senate. So you probably understand this, but let's just say the whole senior class gets together and we want to figure out where we're going to have the prom. So the senior class might set up a committee, like 4 or 5 of you, to go look into where to have the prom. The committee would look into that, and then they would come back to the whole senior class and they would present their findings. It would be too cumbersome for the entire senior class to go out and look into this. So a committee, they are specialized. They work on specific things. And then a conference committee are temporary to reach a compromise on an idea. So really what I want you to understand is different, that there are standing committees, then there's some committees that aren't there all the time. Standing committees are always there. You can look into that website. The way committees are organized is the head of a committee is going to be from whichever party controls whatever house. So the heads of all the committees now in the House of Representatives are Democrats. The committees in the Senate are Republicans. So in the House, Nancy Pelosi is a Democrat. She really has control over all the committees. In the Senate, Mitch McConnell is a Republican. He really has control over it because the people in charge he really has control over all the Senate committees because the person in charge is from that party. So, and then hierarchy is based on seniority. So when you get somebody who's been in Congress for a long time, they might be the leader of a committee. When you get a first-term congressman, they really don't have a lot of power. So one of the things that congressmen use to get reelected, they say, oh, I have a lot of seniority. I can get a lot of stuff done for my constituents. There's using a word that we've learned. You know all this stuff because you've watched the video. Rules of lawmaking. First step is drafting a legislation. You come up with the law. Congress, the president, federal agencies all take part in this. They all give their, hey, this is the way the law should be. And okay, it's officially submitted by a representative in the House of Representatives or by a senator in the Senate. Then a committee will rewrite a bill based on discussions during the hearings. So it goes to the committee, they talk about it. Most times it dies in committee because they just realize, you know what, this is not going to be a good law. It's never going to pass. We can't agree on anything. Or they just ignore it. 95, roughly 8,000 bills introduced die in committee. You might ask yourself, why would somebody introduce legislation that they knew was going to die in committee? Well, here's why. Because you might have a representative, and let's say that he's from a farming area, I don't know, in the Midwest somewhere. He introduces some crazy law that would favor farmers. He knows it's never going to pass. It dies in committee. Well, he can go back to his constituents and say, hey, listen, this is how much I'm fighting for you. I tried to get this law that every farmer in America gets a brand new Cadillac. I don't know, some crazy law. And then people say, wow, that guy really cares about us farmers. We should vote for him. So a lot of times laws or legislation is introduced just to make the politician look good or the other side to look bad. Because then he could say, look, they voted down this new law that I proposed that every farmer gets a brand new Cadillac. So you can't vote for that guy. He's anti-farmer. They're probably not anti-farmer. They just realized it was a ridiculous law. And then if it gets out of committee, then it's debated in Congress, in front of the whole Congress. Unfortunately, they don't really debate the way they used to. Used to be all the congressmen, all the senators, whichever house, would actually debate something. Now that doesn't really happen. It really happens through the media. They go to the media with their concerns or with their problems, which, by the way, is a bad way to govern. People sitting looking at each other in the eyes, that's a good way to govern. The speaker controls much of the debate. In the House of Representatives, it's Speaker of the House. In the Senate, it would be the majority leader. There's not as much debate in the House as there is in the Senate as there is in the House. I'm just going to read this. I can't really explain what a filibuster is on video, but it's when an opponent of a bill never gives up the floor. So in the Senate, let's say that I am against some law that Nate has introduced. Nate has introduced, I don't know what the law is. Well, I get up at the podium and I can talk and never stop. So literally, until they agree to pull the debate on this certain law and kill the potential law. So there's been senators that have stood up for 30 hours nonstop just talking. I think it was Ted Cruz read like green eggs and ham up there during a filibuster one time. And this is done to kill a potential law. And then eventually what happens, the other senators are like, you know what, we're done with this. We can't sit here and listen to this guy talk for this long. So they just pull their support. So don't worry about what that is. Once a bill is out of a committee, it may look to a different House and the Senate. It may look different. The committee changes what the bill looks like. They add stuff, they pull stuff. That's why, and again, I can't do this over a video, but if you look into this coronavirus relief bill, it's more there than just giving money to people and helping people who are out of a job. They stuck all this other stuff in there also. It then goes to a conference committee where the committees are hammered out. It's done behind closed doors. So let's just say it passes. It passes the Congress. It passes the House of Representatives. It passes the Senate. It then proceeds to the president. If the president signs it, it becomes a law. If he chooses to veto it, it dies. Now, we would know long before whether he was going to sign it or not, because we know everything that goes on in government now because of the media. It's not like he's actually sitting at his desk and they bring this in and they say, hey, Mr. President, here's a potential law. And he reads it and decides, no, this is done way before. But what a president will say, while it's in committee, he'll let people know, listen, if you pass that, I'm not going to sign it. And then guess what? It never even goes to the Senate. So we pretty much know what's happening because of unbelievable avenues of communication now. And if a president pushed for something, he's probably going to sign it. So it's not like the way it sounds where it's like they pass a potential law and then the president sits down and reads it. It's all done. We know everything that while it's going on. If he doesn't sign it and he doesn't, if he just sits on it, meaning he doesn't do anything with it, it's called a pocket veto. In other words, he took the bill and he stuck it in his pocket. That's really what happens usually. Okay, is if the president doesn't want a law, he just ignores it and it just dies on its own. If a president vetoes a bill, okay, so he says no, he turns it down, not a pocket veto, an actual veto. He says no. If 2/3 of the vote in both the House and the Senate, they can override the veto. Now, for that to happen, you would have to have 2/3 of the 435 representatives, 100 senators. They would have to be in a party other than what the president was in. That's almost never going to happen. So overriding a veto is almost impossible. I don't think I've ever heard of it happening in recent history. Oversight, how Congress oversees how the executive office carries out legislation, meaning the president. Republican Congress were hawkish over Bill Clinton. So the Republicans controlled Congress when Bill Clinton was in there. So they didn't allow the president to get a lot done. Right now, the Democrats aren't allowing Donald Trump to get a lot of stuff done. The Republicans controlled the Senate when Obama was president. So he didn't get a lot of stuff done. So they really have powers beyond that. They can kind of rein in a president or they can let president run. And then the Senate also ratifies treaties. That's not legislation, but they ratify a treaty. If the president has a treaty, they have to sign it. Remember in the Treaty of Versailles, Woodrow Wilson, ending World War I, he comes back with the treaty and the Senate refuses to ever ratify it. So we never agree to that treaty. The Senate has to approve presidential appointments, people on the cabinet, for instance, they had to approve whoever the Secretary of the Treasury, the Secretary of Agriculture. They also have to approve judges when the president nominates someone to become a Supreme Court judge or any federal judge. The Senate has to approve that. So they have oversight over what the president does. And then they can impeach him. And we just saw this happening. So the House brought up Donald Trump on charges. They agreed to impeach him. It went to the Senate. There was a quote unquote trial in the Senate, and the Senate voted that he was not guilty. So that's another way that they have oversight over the president. So many Americans feel that Congress does not act either as a trustee or board delegate of the American people. That just says that many Americans don't think Congress really cares about what the American people think. Many Americans think that Congress is a self-serving institution, that the people in the Senate, they care about one person, that's them, that's themselves getting reelected, that the people in the House of Representatives are self-serving, that they care about themselves only. And they're probably true to some extent. Now, I'll tell you that they will do almost anything to stay in power. So that can be good, that can be bad. It can be bad, in my opinion, because sometimes they have to take a stand, okay? But that most people think they're really not in touch with, and we talked about that. When you get senators who've been there for 10 years, when's the last time they had a job? You know, even right now, do they really understand what the average American is going through looking into this potential economic depression and losing a job? They probably don't, because you know what? They're not going to be out of a job. They're going to still have a job. Not to mention, even if they don't get reelected, they get a pension for life. On the slide, it says, ideally, representative government gives all people equal representation. Do they? Are people equally represented? If I have millions of dollars, am I more represented or less represented? If I'm really, really poor, am I more represented or less represented? I'm not going to tell you what the answer to that. You guys can figure that one out. But that's ideally. So, and I believe that's the entire slideshow. So if you've watched the videos, let me go back to the, if you've watched the videos and you've listened to these lectures, I think we're doing pretty good. I'm not going to give you a worksheet this week, but I do want you to email me, and I want you to tell me what it says on my shirt. Okay, so there's my shirt. I don't know if you're going to see it backwards or forwards, but email me that you saw what my shirt says, and I'll give you quiz grade, because that way I know that you've watched this video. Do not share it, Nate. Do not tell Vontae. Vontae, do not tell Nate. But watch this video and kind of keep up with the times. If you need to talk to somebody, I know you're getting tired of me saying this, give me a call, or anybody at Roseville, Coach Barber, Coach Krantz, anybody. And just take things as they come, guys. I know it's crappy senior year. It really is. And I feel for you. It's not going to be easy. But hopefully we'll get through this thing. Listen, pay attention to, I want you, all four of you guys, to stay healthy. So stay in your house. I mean, go outside and get some exercise, but just do whatever to get through it, man. Hopefully it won't be too long. So love you guys, and I miss you, and talk to you soon.